through the cracks of popularity and are just kind of in this abyss of, oh my god, what is this book? I've never heard of this before. Also, the books that may have just been in that abyss to begin with and just no one really knows about, or maybe they do, but they just haven't really heard much about it, so they don't want to pick it up and, you know, give it a chance. But today we are going to be talking about my top 5 underrated books. I hope you guys give these books a chance, and without further ado, let's get into this. In the first book we are going to be showing some love to is Defy by Sarah B. Larson. Now, not just this book, but the second book too, Ignite. It's somewhere behind those flowers back there. I read the first 2 books in this series, and oh my god, okay. This is a fantasy series. I don't know how this book has kind of just not been in the spotlight, or I mean, I think it has been in the spotlight a little bit, but like, I just think this book deserves so much love and praise because it is honestly one of my favorite fantasy books, and it's one of those fantasy books that isn't super long too, which is kind of insane because most fantasy books I've been reading lately are, you know, at least 400, 500, 600 plus pages. Okay, what is Defy about? You're probably asking. Defy is about a girl named Alexa Hall, and now it takes place, the book takes place in this fantasy world, and Alexa is a fighter or a soldier in the king's army. Now, in this world, women are basically, you know, in that role where they're like, okay, your job is to have kids, anything outside of that is just irrelevant and you can't do it, which is total bullshizzy, okay? To avoid her fate of just becoming another, you know, girl that just has to pump out all these children so that the army has soldiers, she ends up pretending to be a guy and getting into the army. Not only is she just like a soldier, but she's one of the best soldiers, so good that she becomes the personal guard to the prince. The prince! That makes it even harder because she not only has to, you know, protect the prince, but she also has to hide her identity of being a girl. And so she ends up getting kidnapped, her, the prince, and one other character who form this kind of a love triangle. I know, hold up, I know the word love triangle scares some people, but just trust me, this love triangle isn't like your typical love triangle. It's just really good. She ends up being kidnapped by the enemy, and so now not only is she kidnapped and having to protect the prince, but she has to do that on top of hiding her identity as a woman, and it's so good, and there's magic, and there's fighting, and there's adventure, and it's everything you could want. Next book, we are getting into one of my favorite genres, which is the supernatural genre. I have mentioned this book before, but let me tell you, I'm gonna mention it again. You guys, when I think zombie, this is the best zombie series I have ever read. Like, I love this series as much as I love The Walking Dead. The quality of The Walking Dead's content, sorry if you're not a fan of The Walking Dead, but that sort of quality of it just not feeling like this kind of fake, like, oh, zombie. Force of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. I read the whole series, I own the whole series. Once again, it's behind those flowers somewhere. If you are not a fan of zombies, if you read this book, I guarantee you'll become a fan of zombies. Like, that is how much confidence and how much I love this book series. It is like, okay, so much is going on beyond just there being zombies. The zombies are kind of like this problem, right? This constant conflict going on, but there's so much other stuff going on in this world. So in this book, we have our main character, or actually like a group of main characters, and they're living in this enclosed fenced community. It's very small, and the fence is surrounded by zombies. This community is extremely, extremely religious, and to the point where everything is structured. You know, you have to get married at this time, you have to do this, you have to do this, because they believe they're the last ones on Earth, even though they've never ventured beyond their little fence. Our main character ends up going beyond the fence and discovering, like, oh my god, there are things beyond what I was told. This survival, like, there is romance in it too, the survival adventure, and let me tell you, okay, the second and the third book, you don't follow the same characters. In every book, you follow a different group of characters that are located in a different place, but they all tie in, and it's just so good. That sort of like tie-in between all 3 books just makes it so worth the read. I recommend you read all 3 books, not just the first one. That's sort of I don't want to say fantasy. For anybody who loves that sort of gritty, gripping, suspenseful, survival, like that, I don't know how to describe that sort of like energy you get from reading those kind of books, like, you will love this next book. Shipbreaker by Paolo Bacigalupi. Oh my god, I said his name right. Praise the Lord, okay. But first of all, there's 2 books. It is a duology. Let me just tell you in advance, buy both books. Like, get both books. If you end up not liking the first one, guarantee you'll like the second one. Both these books take place in the same world, but just with 2 different characters. And I totally I almost like the second book more than I like the first book. And the first book I gave like a 10 out of 10. So, if you don't like the first one, still give the second one a chance. What is this book series about? You should always start by saying, giving a summary for Shipbreaker. Where do I even start with this? It takes place on one of America's Gulf Coast regions, and it follows in this sort of I don't know if I could say this is the future, but it definitely has some elements that make it not of this world. Children that just live on this coast, they are hired to become shipbreakers. These kids are kind of formed or put into groups, and they're hired to go into broken down oil tankers, which are those big ships that carry oil, and scavenge for parts, copper wire, oil, of course, because it's worth a lot. They make money by doing this, and it helps them, survive by doing this. A lot of the kids in this book even live on the beach and things like that. Our main character in the first book, Naylor, ends up coming across this grounded, is it a clipper ship? A really expensive, fancy, think yacht level, right? And it's broken down, and it's literally in really good condition, and he can get so much money off of all the parts, off the oil. But when he goes inside this ship, he discovers that there's a girl in there, and so he's kind of has this choice between, okay, I can either bring all these goods back to shore and make a lot of money off of it, or I can bring this girl back to shore and save her. You can kind of guess what decision he makes, and this kind of spirals into this whole thing, and it is so good. And the second book, is entirely different. It follows a girl. Just both books are so good, and I could talk about them for hours, but I'm just gonna tell you right off the bat, they are amazing. Alright, now into our contemporary genre. First of all, one of my favorite contemporary books of all time, and just to put this out there, I'm not a huge fan of contemporary. I mean, I like it, but it's more of my 4th favorite genre. I will almost always choose fantasy or magic or sci-fi over contemporary. So for me to like a contemporary book is it has to be good. One of the Guys by Lisa Alden. Okay, this book, I almost have never seen it in any booktube videos talking about contemporary books. One of the Guys is such an amazing contemporary book, and it's extremely short too, so there's no excuse not to read it. But One of the Guys, this book we follow our main character Tony. She lives right by a lake, and all of her best friends are guys, and they all kind of live within the same area. Her entire life she's grown up with these guys, she's one of the guys, I guess you could say, and has always been really outdoorsy. In this book, our main character, it's that time of her life where they're about to graduate, they're all about to go in kind of different directions and possibly never really see each other that much anymore. Our main character ends up going to school, and her friend has this problem. She's like, look, I need a date, I don't have a date, or I believe it was she told her parents she had a boyfriend when she actually didn't, or something like that. So she needed someone to pretend to be her boyfriend for one night. So this gives Tony an awesome idea. She's like, oh my god, I have 4 guy friends. What if I create this sort of business thing where these girls who need dates, or just need fake dates or something like that, they can kind of rent out one of the guys. And okay, this is sounding a lot worse than it actually is. It's really funny. And this is also a way to help them make money because one of the characters in the book really needs money. They end up doing this, and it kind of gets out of control, and it creates this whole problem, and it's just, the book is so amazing. I think I gave it a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 or something like that, and like I said, it's a quick read. You could read it in a day. Last but not least, I have Wait for You by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and like I said, I don't think this is not popular, but I just feel this was the second new adult book I ever read. The first one I read was Ugly Love, and I'm not gonna lie, it scared me a little bit. I was like, is this what the new adult genre is? This is a lot more erotic than I thought it would be. I gave the new adult genre another chance, and I read Wait for You by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and it was so beautiful. And like I said, contemporary isn't my go-to genre, so for me to like a contemporary book, it really has to have some impact. In Wait for You by Jennifer L. Armentrout, we follow this main character. She's sort of kind of run away from home, but not really. She's going to college, but she chooses to go to college really far from her hometown because she kind of has this post-traumatic stress because of this situation that happened to her, and it is one of those situations. She just has this past she's kind of trying to get away from. And so when she goes to this new college, she's like, I'm not gonna date, I'm not gonna get into any relationships, I just need to just be single and alone for a little bit. She ends up meeting this guy, and he ends up just whittling his way into her heart, and the dialogue, their conversations, the friends in this book, everything was just so perfect, and it's funny and sweet and sad all at the same time, which is like the perfect mix for a contemporary book. And of course, Jennifer L. Armentrout is a queen. Anyways, those are all the books, those are all the underrated books I have for right now. I'll probably make a part 2 to this video once I make another list of underrated books. But I hope you guys like it. Until next time, keep reading, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!